All right. So, good afternoon. We are live, and I'm going to pass it over now to Fee. Good afternoon, and
Are we?
welcome everybody.
Is there some?
Yeah, we're good.
Oh, that was it.
There's a background noise. Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
there's
can hear
some
you.
Yes.
background noise from somewhere. Well, it's from
Yeah,
somebody.
there was some kind of Islamic
Adrian, how are
prayer.
you?
No. Pardon.
Are you able to mute so that we can kick off?
Okay.
Now we lost Figgy.
All right. So Adrian, I think we just listen to your voice. Do we have people on the call? I can't see anything on my end. Or do we need to wait a few more minutes? Good afternoon, everyone.
Hello. Hi, Finn.
Hi,
How's it going?
hi, Figgy.
Good afternoon. I'll just let Adrian confirm if we have to wait a few more minutes to let more people join.
So how do we know how many people have joined?
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out myself.
I don't think we can see. I think the back end can see, but
Yeah,
we
I think the
can
back
see.
end can see, but we can't see.
Apologies. I don't think I'll be able to feedback. Yes. So on the YouTube live, we're able to see those that have started. So about five people already watching. Okay, I think we can start. Thank you.
Yeah,
Okay.
wait.
So, Adrian, do you want to mute your mic? Right. Okay. Awesome. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. Good afternoon. Um, this has been a long time coming, and a lot of work has gone into this over the last couple of months. When I got the first call from the DG himself, I think that was early August, first or second day in
Yeah,
August, um, when we kicked off this conversation. And so today we're really going to again um, do a deep dive, introduce the baselines to Billion's report, um, talk a bit more as to how, and then engage you um, on the call and visual as well. I think visual is here somewhere um, on how we see the ecosystem going forward. And so to just kick off, I have, again, because we've put together this nice report, it makes sense to give people something to whet their appetite, something to look forward to. So I have this short deck, short slides, um, where we will sort of, again, just align us to share a few more things, what we saw in the report, what that meant for us um, going, going into this. Pedro, are you able to help me with sharing? So I need to let me share my screen.
what do you want me to share?
No, not you.
Okay, Adrian.
Yeah. So I think I'm sharing my screen now. Please let me know if you can see. Okay. All right. Awesome. Okay. Yeah, just get into it straight up. So the title of our report is Nigerian Market Intelligence Report. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, okay. So um, it's just busy trying to connect. And so this report is something that we put a lot of work into trying to size the market, and it makes sense to do that. Again, if you're thinking about how investors are thinking about the landscape for culture, for creative industry as a whole, across Africa, across Nigeria. The data is something everyone has been speaking about. Where's the data? How do we size the market? How do they make money? What's happening in the space? And so that's the crux of this report. And that earlier conversation that I had with you, Gigi, was around really this. How do we size it? How does the government intervene if it had to intervene? You need numbers to work with. And so that's really the crux of baselines to billions. It's Nigeria's it's a music market intelligence report.
Excellent.
So, and again, just to introduce who we are, RegalStone Capital is an investment advisory firm, and we back and we build with high potential African SMEs in the cultural and creative industries across the continent. We combine smart capital, hands-on advisory to unlock scalable growth. We do that on the advisory side, helping you build your back office, helping with growth, market access for creative businesses. And then there's the capital side, deploying capital to support the business as it grows. And so, just moving into what, the what of the report is again just the landscape. How are we thinking about Nigeria's creative economy is booming? Um, and music really is the catalyst. So if you think about how post-COVID, how music got on the streaming platforms and everyone was able to just onboard easily, and just not only in Nigeria anymore, across the world, we're all able to listen in. And then again, oh, where's this good music coming out from? Coming out from Nigeria, and there's more interest in our fashion, interest in our food, interest in our movies, right? Even though movies have always had that traction across the continent, but now we're starting to see that in other advanced markets. And so for RegalStone, it made sense to align with the National Council of Arts and Culture when the call came in, because again, we'll have to examine revenue streams, thinking about growth for the space, not just for music, across all the subsectors in the space, and just the opportunities that are there and investment trends. But it makes sense to start with music because music is sort of the sector that ignites and sort of sets that ball in motion. And baselines to billions reports is that data-driven overview of how music again moves away from hobby, moves away from passion to profit. And so for the report, what we try to do is focus on how we think about the market. So again, if you're thinking about sizing the market, you also either think about how transactions move there, or you're thinking about it in terms of just the assets that are owned in the space. Because of again lack of enough data, lack of data, all of the challenges in pulling some of this in, it makes sense to go with the revenue streams. And so across the music space, there are a number of revenue streams in Nigeria, across the world. And again, just given where we can get data from, we decided to focus on five core areas: streaming royalties and social media platforms. We also looked at live performances and touring. We also looked at brand endorsements and partnerships that typically happens with artists and the labels. We also looked at publishing and licensing income, where we see that there's room for expansion there. And then there's also sync licensing. Again, with sync licensing, there's also lots of room to expand there. Today, what we've seen is some noise and some impact, or some traction is the word in the global space, where you find some of our music on some of the blockbusters movies, or some big ads, etc. And so again, when we sort of dissected this, a number of things came through, right? Again, first the composition of what the revenue stream really looks like. So live performances is really the top earner. for any artist, and most confirmed this. We also in the report again had to verify with, of course, artists, players in the space industry, the labels, the streaming platforms, those that organize the shows globally and locally, the brands, the industry, the corporates, again, that typically sign up these artists and pay them, the publishing agents and companies that work with them. And so, again, it leads us to live performances being 65% of this pool, streaming contributing 30%, although has more reach, but still contributing the second highest. And then we have brand endorsements. Again, brand endorsements, usually, again, a couple of years back must have been the highest, but now we see it sort of shrink because, again, there's room to actually really earn without leaning onto a brand for an artist. You can actually really earn from core music, and that's where the live performances come in and the streaming. There's also the publishing income that needs to expand, and then the sync licensing. And so, when we went through these five core streams, it made us realize the size of the market is there. And today, that revenue for 2024 is about $600 million. And so, what does that really mean? If just music, again, when you go online, you'll find that data out there says the media, the entertainment space for Nigeria is generating $2 billion in revenue. And if music is bringing in 600, that means music is contributing 30%. So music is not just igniting with passion; it's also there contributing a significant number in the pool. And so that's why it's instructive for this report to again be put out there. And again, alongside just engaging with the ecosystem, we also did some sector mapping as to who are the players in the space. We selected a few, the popular ones that we know, whether it's record labels, the streaming platforms that we work with today, the music publishers, some upcoming ones as well, the touring platforms that we have, and the tech that is there, and the media um, operating in the space. So again, although the slide is it's a slide, just a snapshot of what we do in the report. This is to what your appetite you want to look into the report. Something that I want to highlight is the streaming part because again, it makes sense because it's what is giving us the global outlook, the global reach, the global interest. And so we have a couple of platforms that are sort of driving this. There's Dundo, which again, interestingly, from doing this research, has a really strong audience base in the northern part of Nigeria. We have Audio Map, which was interesting data for me that has captured 60% or more of the market share in the space for streaming. We have Boomplay that already enjoys really great reach in terms of the fact that it's already pre-installed. And it's a pre-installed app on most Android phones. When you're thinking of Techno, itel, Infinix, Boomplay is there. And so typically, it's hard to earn from there as an artist. But in terms of reach, who gets your music, who plays it, it's there. Your music is there. Payouts are still low, something that we figured out. And so typical platforms where you find strong payout numbers that are even announced Spotify. Really the only one that announces the numbers transparently. And then of course Apple Music from just industry contacts have also highlighted that they do pay well as well. And so for Spotify, it's instructive for them because we have them share their perspective in the report as well, where they're saying they have about 2,000 Nigerian artists on the platform that were added in 2024 rather, which is 33% higher. And so again, if you're just thinking about the numbers, it's growing. You're an artist, you have access to the platform, you can onboard your music, one, two EPs, and you're onboarded and you're good to go. So there's room to actually do more and earn more as an artist. Nigerians currently do 1.1 million hours every day streaming. Not only Nigerians actually streaming Nigerian artists, 1.1 million, and I'm sure it's growing every day with hits going out there. Especially gospel music is there, not just the Afrobeat. There's the high life, there's Fuji. So this report sort of again goes broad on the genre and tries to highlight this. And so this is something we're excited about to see a lot more growth in that space. So what needs to be done? A lot of work needs to be done. A lot of things are being said. We all know what needs to be done. And we thought to just highlight two. Um, there's still a lot of work that needs to be done in building a robust publishing and royalties collection system. I think that's a really, really strong earning pool, earning channel for an artist, which will also grow the ecosystem. It's something that needs to happen. And then there's the event infrastructure. So I was really excited a couple of weeks back when um, National Theatre was launched and the renovated one supported by the Nigerian banks. It was really good to see, and I'm excited over the end of the activities to see all of the things that will be done in that space. And so there are opportunities there for homegrown platforms to also be onboarded for us to lock in on them. Again, not only sending the monies to the Spotify's and the Apple Music, the money is going out. We need to find homegrown platforms that are integrated into our livelihood, our day to day, to also earn locally. So there's more ownership at home, basically. Brand partnerships, sync licensing needs to be done. It needs to be clear, more transparency around it. There's room to expand that revenue stream. And so, of course, again, with all of this expanding, there's increased interest for an investor because, again, that means that there are more opportunities in there. There's tech being built to solve some of this problem. There's IP rights being solidified across this. And so, these are key opportunities that I think that we highlight in the report. So how do we become that 1 billion? But again, if we say we are in 2024, we are at 600 million, and if we're going at a certain rate, we're able to hit a billion plus by 2023. How do we get there? The how is also in the report. We also highlighted here. So I think publishing plays a key role, and if we can solve some of the weak collection we have today, we'll be able to boost income. We think there's room for expanded pie there in terms of global demand and local ownership, especially with the platforms, the digital platforms, to drive that grassroots impact. So a lot of the comments and opinions that we got from the report is how a lot of the monies are still, again, large chunk of the money is housed outside the country. Again, the artists moving, the big 10 or big six are outside there anymore, and the local, there's no grassroots impact. So we're not seeing it scale across. And so there's room to work on that value side of the value chain. Um, Direct to fan monetization, a lot of monetization is happening across platforms. It will be good to see more local platforms onboarded and become attractive for artists. And so again, improve payout potential. And so the tech also manages that will manage piracy, all those informal distribution networks that diverts revenue away from artists. That also makes it difficult for an investor to commit. Um, are some of the things that we need to sort of close in on as we grow the space. So you find this and many more. We, in the report, we sort of link a lot of the knowledge of all these people, DG from LCAC, Obiasika, Vizo on the call as well, a number of players, Adi, Margaret Guard. Thought it was important to include in here to thank everyone. Rosita, Chris, really shared a lot on how radio and discovery, radio being a discovery channel, still in there, and there's room for a lot more work around publishing and for artists to be able to earn. Ife also as well, we had for Boomplay West Africa Kadri, Imad from Spotify, Mitch, Mosaze from MTN. MTN also has a piece in there showing how they really work with the artists right from the start. So interestingly, MTN Nigeria was really the one that kicked off the industry for the artists, paying them early on, putting them, standardizing the industry in some sense early on, not just treating them well, giving them all of the perks that we now think is normal today. MTN Nigeria actually keeps that up. Osaze sort of shares how they're thinking about playing a critical role in the space going forward. And then we have also contributing to the report, Dr. Chinedu, also former head of the Copyright Society of Nigeria, also sharing view on how things will be going forward in terms of intellectual property. And so thank you to everyone. Uh, so this report, hopefully this makes you want to go in there, go to the links that we've shared and that we will share after this call to look in there, download, glean, share with us your feedback, and just join us on this journey as we continue to push the narrative of how music, um, film, all of the players, fashion, animation, sports, how all of this sort of interwoven can create a whole big non-oil sector for Nigeria, for Africa, and how everything just links together. So please join us on this journey for RegalStone and of course from the National Council for Arts and Culture. I hope I've spoken the mind of the DG. So I'll stop here so that we can then move on to the core of today's conversation where we start to again dissect a bit more and see what's possible. We have a report done. We've highlighted a lot of challenges, and it would be good to know what next. How do we move forward from here? As a policymaker, how do we move forward from here as an industry player? And so I will let, I hope Adrian is still here. I will let Adrian sort of introduce our two panelists that are able to join us so that we can properly kick off the conversation.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Adriel, and I'll be reading the profiles of our two speakers. Thank you for joining the call. The first person we have here is Mr. Obi Asika. So, Obi Asika is a visionary leader and one of the foremost architects of Nigeria's creative and cultural industries, with over 3 decades of experience. He has driven innovation, investment, and collaboration across music, film, television, sports, tech, and culture. As Director General of the Nigeria Council of Arts and Culture (NCAC) and co-chair of the UK-Nigeria Working Group for the Creative Industries, he continues to champion policies and partnerships that strengthens Nigeria's soft power. Recognized by many as a judge on Nigeria Idol, his influence extends far beyond the screen. He formed Storm 360, launching Nigeria's first wave of global music stars, and executive producer hit shows like The Big Brother Nigeria, The Apprentice Africa, and The Dragon's Den Nigeria. Everybody, this is Obiasika. Please, just in the comment section, you can clap, you can laugh, you can do anything just to welcome him. Thank you very much. And then we have Mr. Bizu Osikoya. He is an entertainment executive and strategy advisor at the Turntable Chat, where he leverages over 7 years of experience to shape the platform's vision, strategy, and partnerships, bridging the gap between music fans, artists, and industry professionals. He's also the founder and principal consultant at The Plug Entertainment, a music publishing, A&R, and entertainment consulting firm that supports emerging and established talents across diverse genres. Passionate about artist development and creative storytelling, Bizo combines his expertise in media, marketing communications, and a creative direction to deliver impactful content and experiences. A graduate of the Digital Film Academy, he continues to apply his filmmaking and storytelling skills to enhance the music and entertainment landscape. Everybody, please, a round of applause for Bizu Osikoya. Thank you so much for joining our call today. And I am going to give it back now to Fee to take us in the host section to kick this off. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, Adrian. I hope everyone can still hear me. I'm just seeing the comments where there's a background noise.
For some reason, I can't hear you, Finn.
Can you hear me?
Now we can hear you.
Okay. 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 Awesome. Awesome. So we're going to the business of sound now. We have the data out there. I'll start with OBDDG. Again, we have the data out there. We see what it is. They say it's $600 million, and there's room to grow. From just your perspective as a policymaker, just in the policy space, right? And also, again, someone that has been in the space supporting artists right from the start. What frameworks are there that we think are most urgent to help to scale the industry going forward? We've highlighted all of the challenges. So how do we move forward? Any specific things we should be looking out for as an industry?
Well, first of all, thank you very much. And let me just commend you and the team at RegalStone for working with us to put this together. I'm just going to give a bit of background. Fionn was working at a different firm when I first encountered her. There was a report that was published around April, I think, earlier this year, called Uncharted Waters, which was kind of a report looking at the Lagos nightlife economy. And that dimensioned the Lagos nightlife economy at about 1.4 trillion in 2024, which is about $900 million. And the thing that I got my attention, apart from that number, which of course is a significant number, was the fact that it was called the Afrobeats economy. And I love the fact that somebody made the connection to understand that in the music industry, it's not always the direct revenue, but it's the things that the music activates, animates, and inspires. And obviously, nightlife without music is almost impossible. And the truth of the matter is the Nigerian music revolution driven by Afrobeats has led to this experience, including Dirty December, because at the heart of everything is the music. So what I say is, music travel needs no visa. And that's one of the things that has really worked for us in the sense that if you go back to the pre-social media era, anybody who was trying to do the music industry from this part of the world or from anywhere in the world actually, and you're trying to break into North America, Canada, the UK, the major music markets, the kind of budget you require just to activate for radio in one city, you might not find that budget anywhere on the continent. So the ambition was limited, right? Your capacity to engage was extremely limited. So the truth of the matter is, the first thing I want to say is that, first of all, this is the first data-driven report on this sector. So I think we're going to give a round of applause to RegalStone and to NCAC and to everybody who contributed. I think there's at least, I don't know, 10, 15, 20 leaders that were participating in this report to enable us to get something that we use as a base to move from. So for me, when you talk about what's next, I think the first thing is to really seed this report and get it out to people who are not in the music industry, who have never really looked at it and dimensioned it. If you were to look at what the Nigerian Bureau of Statistics has put over the last several years, or the PwC has put as their revenue stream for music, it's like 10% of the number that we have arrived at. And people like me have been arguing this point for years, that you're not dimensioning the music industry appropriately. You're not giving it its due respect. You're not giving it you're not really recognizing the economic impact that it's having, not just in terms of the show side of the business, but the business side of the business, behind the scenes, the labels, the people that work in the industry, and the things that make things happen. But for me, what I can say is this, is that one of the key things that we did when we got into office, NCAC is the music agency of government, which is not something known widely to a lot of people. But because we come from the sector and we understand the sector, the first thing I actually did was probably engage close to 100 different leaders across the Nigerian music industry, locally and globally, to try to get a sense of what everybody was thinking. We've had a couple of stakeholder engagements, and we actually put together a first level sort of stakeholder intervention plan. But then I said, you know what, let's sort of reverse back a little bit. So we did the Nigerian Creator Economy Report. And when you look at creators, a lot of the creators are also using the music, and some creators are musicians as well. And some producers of beats are also monetizing because their music is being used in the creators. Because if you check anything online, anybody who's watching or who's digital, nothing animates content like video and music, right? You can put your post, but if you put the music soundtrack to it and it animates the audience, you begin to see the real opportunity. But for me, in terms of the things to watch out for, or the things that I think are really, really important, if you read the report, you will see my comments about what's next. I don't want to say those. I think it's important that people actually read these reports and download them and domesticate them, because if this is point one, we're at 600. I think we're actually a little bit bigger than 600, but the end of the day, it's better to be conservative. But I think that by 2035, I see no reason why the Nigerian music industry, driven by Afrobeats, Alte, High Life, Fuji, not Amapiano, Ogene, all the other genres, and gospel. I was happy you mentioned gospel, because I think gospel is a massive segment of our ecosystem, should be at about $2 to $2.5 billion per annum. Now, this growth that we are at today has sort of happened largely without government. So what we now want to see is what are the things government can do to help to leverage and give a bigger platform for this thing to grow even further. So from our side, I mean, certainly we're looking at things around, without saying every single thing right here, we're looking at things around music education. We think music education is very important. And music education in two sides. There's the business of music, so those who are executives in the music industry who need to understand publishing, licensing, sync, artist management, A&R, the things that people like Bizzle do every day. It's not easy. It takes talent. It takes hard work. So people need to understand, what is that skill set? How do I get into that? And how do I do that? Then there's the side of the musicians themselves, the side of the musicology of Nigeria, the fact that we are probably the origins of sound. That's why I like the title so much, Beats and Bass, right? If you look at call and response as a foundation of our music, going back maybe a million years, you will see that all the music that has come out of Africa and affected the rest of the world is foundationally call and response. From jazz to hip hop to reggae to R&B, soul, gospel, blues, it's all call and response. And if you go and listen to traditional Igbo music or Ghanaian music or Fuji music or the Oriki, it's all call and response. And these connections are important because they also empower us and in terms of our culture, heritage, and narrative. But coming to the modern environment and the business side of it, I think the most critical things are, first of all, by getting the data mapping done and by establishing this thing as an economic sector, and the fact that, by the way, last week at FEC, the IP framework was passed. What this will mean is that those who own intellectual property rights will be able to monetize, in the sense that they'll be able to raise money from banks in Nigeria in the next few weeks or months, because once it has passed through FEC, it's going to come down to the Bankers Committee. And then from the Bankers Committee, it will now come into products from the retail banks. So what this means is that your ideas can get funded, your intellectual property being, it could be your music catalog. For an author, it could be his books. For a writer, it could be his magazines. But all those things, because this is how intellectual property, I mean, typically it's not really funded by high street banks. Typically it's asset management companies, insurance companies, people with patient capital. But this is what we want to stimulate. We want to be able to stimulate an environment where people understand how to invest in these asset classes, which is what the music is, and the various other elements. There are people who are sitting on over 100,000 songs in their publishing catalogs in Nigeria. And we want to be in a place where in a few years' time, you might be sitting here and you hear the Premier Music, which is one of the oldest labels in the country, was able to do a deal for $1 billion just for its catalog. Because all these rights are significant assets, but what has not happened over time is we have not really been monetizing them. But as we build that framework and ecosystem, so there's a convergence of factors that is happening. The IP framework was worked across a multi-ministerial committee. So our ministry, I was involved in that from the agency side, but our ministry, the Ministry of Trade and Investment, the Ministry of Finance, the Ministry of Digital Economy, I believe, and those are the core ministries. And what this is that it's backing the startup founders and the intellectual property owners. So that is the creators, the creatives, and I think that's a significant win for everybody. And when you begin to match that with data, so that the banker doesn't just say to you, oh, go and bring collateral for me and it's your grandmother from the village or whatever, but the banker or the funder like Fee here can look at the data, look at your catalog, and value your catalog and say, hey, you know what? I can fund you because I can see that this asset class is monetizing. I can see the timeline on which it is happening. And I can see some case studies that show me that this is viable and valuable. So I think, so that for us, it's really about, in the first instance, I think when we look at entertainment, I call it show business, right? And I think the journey has been over the last 10, 15 years, we have validated the show. Nobody's asking, are the Nigerian artists good? Can they deliver a big show? That's not the question now. But now we have to do the business, right? So the business is this side of it, right? How do you stimulate and unlock capital? How do you get investment to grow? So we need investment capital to grow the ecosystem. We want to see independent labels in Nigeria get bigger, independent production companies get bigger. Artists, no matter when you see an artist, you think he's solo, he's never solo. There's a team behind doing the work. And that's what people need to understand. So that whole ecosystem for us, we have an intervention plan that looks at education, looks at venues for live domestic touring. Nigeria has 40 stadiums, has 600 tertiary institutions and over 12,000 hotels. Plus we have over 30 airports. So we have a base infrastructure for all these things. And we do have 5 to 6, I would say, major production companies that can deliver shows. But you have to scale that capacity, because if Bizzle takes Davido on tour this week, and next week Ashake is on tour, and the same week Burner's on tour, capacity is going to be stretched. We're going to be struggling to deliver at the same level if 4, 5, 6 guys are on tour at the same time. And in this market, with the kind of capacity we have, we should be able to deliver. I want to see a situation where some of our artists are doing 50-day tours in Nigeria, right? Before they even get to West Africa, before they get to Southern Africa, let's monetize at home, right? The biggest place that we have not monetized is actually Nigeria. Everything outside Nigeria, yes, it will get bigger, but once we really, really key into our own market, and I think in terms of that, the other thing I would mention, which of course you know is one of my obsessions, is products and merchandise, right? Because the business of entertainment, the business of music, if you look at all the biggest musicians in the last 30, 40 years, most of their money did not come from the music. It came from publishing, it came from sync, it came from endorsements, but a lot of it came from merchandise, whether it was toys, dolls, product, t-shirts, hoodies. It's that whole category of content is an enormous space. We have enormous street markets and markets in Nigeria. What we need to do is work out a handshake so there's trust between the IP owner, for example, let's say I'm Don Jazzy, and you, the marketer, right? So that I can confidently give you my IP, knowing that not only will you sell it, you'll pay me my piece of my revenue, and then we can build again. So I think the opportunities ahead are incredible. To think that we came this far with really not anything in terms of support, because I can tell you that whilst almost every other sector, Nollywood has received funding from government, the music industry has really not ever received funding. But we are going to put together, we do have a plan, and we are seeking intervention funding for the music industry to stimulate these things. Innovation around merchandise and products, more venues for live touring domestically. What can we do around technology, right? We set up something called the Council for Creative Technology Futures, and it's specifically because Bizzle is one of our members on the council, and it's specifically because we see that technology is disrupting this sector more than every other sector. If you see what AI is doing every day, I see different releases. You know, I see 50 Cent remixes from the 50s. I'm wondering whether 50 is going to shoot somebody online soon, because the way it's coming, the content is so hot that you're like, my God, how are we really going to work this thing? So I think that we want to be ahead of the game. We don't want to be reacting. And we feel that we're blessed in the situation that when the internet first came, maybe 30 years ago, there were not that many Nigerians that were internet savvy. But in 2025, There's a lot of Nigerians that are savvy when it comes to AI, when it comes to technology, when it comes to social. Bizzle here was, I met him because he was building social media platforms for artists in 2006, 7, 8, when none of us really understood what social media was. So when you have people who are on it early, then I always feel align with them and let them teach you so that you too can understand what this new world is saying. And so, from my perspective, and sitting from the government perspective, we certainly have a plan. We're certainly looking to use these reports. I was at the central bank yesterday. I told them that this thing was coming out today. I will be giving them the report. I'll be giving it to the finance minister. So the work is advocacy at a level because we have to advocate to those who hold the levers of finance and structure in government to say, listen, this is not just fun and games. This is a very, very serious economic sector affecting millions of people, providing jobs, and more importantly, inspiring and giving hope to millions, if not billions. And as you know, and you said it nicely at the beginning, the music is what is animating and pushing out the fashion, the hair and beauty, the dance, the culture, Nollywood. Everything is being driven by the music, whether they want to give the music credit or not. But that is certainly what is happening. And in global advertising, people will tell you football and music are 80% of the spend, no matter where you look at it, because these are the things that people emotionally connect to. So for me, I think that's a good opening look at what we're looking at. And we're open to collaborate with everybody who is serious about playing in this sector locally and globally.
Thank you so much for that intro. Thank you so much. I like that the fact that you spoke about almost everything across board, the IP, especially how we should think about music as a business, how investors should think about it, the people that should be looking at it, and what lens. And so it helps me to be able to again speak to Bizu nicely around. Again, you've also been in the space from building platforms for artists. Um, the experience at the plug as well. What gaps? I want to talk about the investment and business readiness for these structures from the music angle. What gaps are there that are keeping the artist from engaging with just being again business ready, more investment ready, and then build out scalable structures, catalogs, etc.
All right, thanks for the question. And like you said, great opener for Obi. Shout out to Obi Asika. He convinced me to move back to Nigeria. Gave me my first job in the music space. I'm always bigging him up every time. If not for him, I probably wouldn't be where I am. Him and shout out to him and Don Jazzy, were two people that really welcomed me into the industry. And I'm sure they're both proud of how much I've grown. And yeah, it's amazing to see. But yeah, like you said, I think one of the things that is really affecting, the gaps in the industry for the artists is really more for me. It's really about structure and also really about like financial transparency with a lot of artists, like and even the data as well. A lot of artists, they clearly can't present to you like their revenue histories or tell you how much they make. A lot of people don't keep contracts, don't keep documents of how much they've made. They're basically just, a lot of them is just like, look, I'm making money, spending it, putting it in buying stuff. There's not a lot of people really investing back and doing things. For most of them, it's really just, I had a conversation with someone earlier today. I said for most of artists, a lot of artists is really music for them, or entertainment industry for them is really just a way of escaping poverty, which is why a lot of them just basically blow up every money they get and don't bother to like have proper documentation of everything, that they're earning, and being able to keep a track record, and which is part of the reasons why it's so difficult for investment to come in, because a lot of times when you speak to a lot of these artists, there's no clear evidence of how much revenue they've been able to generate over time they've been in music. And also, for me, another thing that I feel that it lacks is like um, I mean, I know, shout out to Big O, he's part of government now, but a lot of things is management and government frameworks that really help, a lot of these artists to do things. For example, I mean, for musicians, there should be a way where it's like for them, it's registering their company, at a lower level, cheaper rate for a lot of these guys, or ways for encouraging these guys to register their companies, you know, being given tax educations and knowing how to, remit taxes and things like that. Also, having a team who takes accountability for helping them with their, royalty collections from different places, from and making sure that all of them are signed to the proper collecting societies to be able to track like the royalties and things like that, because these are things that help them to be able to, you know, show to investors like how much revenue they're bringing in, and makes them be able to get like investable cash flow for them, to scale. And then also, I think one of the things Obi said earlier too for me is like, um, the third thing for me, I would say, is really education. There's a huge knowledge gap for a lot of all these artists and creatives, because a lot of them really don't understand like what it is like about IP ownership, how to, build relationships with investors. A lot of them don't understand how to value their catalog and what they're worth. A lot of them really don't understand the business structure of things. For a lot of them, it's really just make music and move on. And then, most times too, when they hire people who are well educated, who understand these things, these people want to come in and rip them off and not really explain to them what it is to help them scale, but they just want to be there to be able to milk them and not help them understand what they're doing. That's why we've seen a lot of times where a lot of artists would leave their labels or management thinking that, oh, I'm being ripped off from these people, because a lot of these people don't explain to them properly in the beginning of how they're helping them to, spend the money, or what kind of investments they're making in them. That's why those things to scare a lot of people who want to invest in artists, think that, oh, tomorrow you're going to come around and say, oh yeah, I'm ripping you off because I want a good percentage of money for being an early investor in you. A lot of these things are things where these guys don't have no knowledge about. So those are part of things that I feel like is really being a huge gap for getting investment in the sector.
Thank you for sharing that, Hazel, because again, what you say is very valid. And some of the conversations that are happening in this space, and even just affecting investment. If you're an investor looking in, you're wondering why so much disconnect between artists with agreements, and then we see the fights on social media, right? And so this leads me back to um, again, especially now that we're now seeing a lot more agreements or contracts globally, global agreements, which are good for the pockets, right? And we're seeing the African music also go really global. How I want to speak about ownership, how we can ensure that again these structures that we're creating, this expansion that's happening, um, how scalable can it be? What can Nigeria really do to help capture this value for creators, for music, for musicians, right? Even just across the value chain, how are we thinking about it? As we're signing some of this contract, how do you see it? How do you see bringing it home? How do you see how do you see them maintaining ownership, um, and just driving grassroots growth as we want to see it?
Well, I think, sometimes, and it's part of the thing that Bizzle was talking about, when he's talking about education, right? And it's not just education for people in the sector, it's even education for people in the economic space or whatever. The first thing is first, you cannot go global if you don't do global deals, right? So that's just the first thing. And if you're not ready to do global deals, then stay at home and listen to your music by yourself. Do you understand? Because the bottom line is it's a business, right? And you must be able to know the best way in which to assign your rights so that you could do the deal you need to do in terms of distribution. The interesting thing about this world now is that some of the artists have grown so big that they're really beyond label size, right? So they themselves are almost like digital nations. I mean, they manage Davido. Davido is like 75 million followers on social media. That's more than the population of several countries. You'd have to actually probably combine most of Scandinavia to get that population. So you just think about what that means in terms of impact, scale, and reach. But at the same time, Davido cannot wake up every day and post his music to his audience. They'll switch off, right? So you also have to learn your tone and voice and what works and what doesn't work. And one of the things that doesn't work, it's constant over promotion. If an artist wakes up every day and all he's doing is just pushing the music, then the people are not going to get into him as a person, and they need to have that connection to really follow through on the music. When we were all kids, well, not maybe you guys, but when I was a kid, there were fan clubs, right? There were mailing clubs, a mailing list, and people write in to become to a fan club to get early releases, opportunities to access certain events, listening parties, all these sort of things, like a preview to let you know that you're part of a select group that is getting to see or hear this thing before the rest of the world hears it. Now, in terms of ownership, I mean, first of all, one of the things is this 2025, there's so many free resources out there. There's a great
Sorry to
website.
call you Obi. I think sorry to call you Obi. I think the fan clubs are back. It's something called community on Instagram and WhatsApp. So
Yeah.
those things are back where people are building little things on Instagram and WhatsApp where they're giving exclusive to their fans.
You see what I'm saying? And even if you look at platforms like Even that were trying to come into this market, who are now driven more on a specialty basis, and you could decide to release your album just there and withhold it back from the other 500 DSPs just because you have a specific strategy you want to do, and you put your album at $30, and maybe you have hardcore fans of 100,000 who are ready to buy your album at $30, and you suddenly got $3 million cash. Do you understand? So there are many different ways to do this thing. Now, in terms of ownership, copyright tends to be 75 years or so from those who created the original expression. So you have a long time to monetize and work it. But if you don't work with professional advisors, it's hard to help you. So you need to work with people who understand publishing, who understand rights, and who understand the best deals in the market. Because the truth of the matter is, everybody has to give up something to make something. So the biggest artists in the world, by the time you're looking at a Beyonce or a Jay-Z, and if they're touring with Live Nation or they're doing those sort of deals, Live Nation might be happy to just take 5% because Live Nation is looking at this thing like these guys are going to generate $7 billion this year. We're happy to take 5%, run the whole operation, let the operational expenses be paid for, and we're happy with the 5% because of the aggregated volume. But if you're generating only $10,000, don't expect them to give you the same deal. Do you understand? There's leverage in capacity, there's leverage in who you are and what you're bringing to the table. So the idea, because sometimes the idea is set up that, oh, the artists are victims. They're not victims. They're not being exploited particularly by anybody. In fact, integrity is generally lacking, unfortunately, in a lot of instances. So it is important that those who are investing into artists also understand. You could invest into your son as an artist and he could sack you next year. You know, that's a very, very real story. And it happens all the time because he'll now find out that actually Popsy or Mumsy is not what I need to get me to where I need to get to. And now suddenly he has to take a tough decision and the family's freaking out. But for the business of the artist, it needs to be done. So when you come to ownership, the key thing, obviously, you always try to retain as much ownership as possible. But if you retain 100% and you do nothing, you're sitting on 100% of nothing, right? So you have to be able to work smart deals, working with publishing and labels and distribution, right? So there's three different spaces in terms of that. And even if you're doing your endorsement deals, you have to be clever enough to know, okay, I'm only going to take this deal for this period of time. And maybe 2 years' time, I'm 60 times bigger. Now I'm going to get the big check. Do you understand? It's a process. There's nothing like, it's very, very rare that you just say, oh, it's a one-time strike and suddenly you're making money. You know, some people artists that most people think are overnight successes, those who are in the industry have seen those artists for 4 or 5 years before the general public saw them. They've seen the development process. They've seen them come up. They've seen them maybe fail a couple of times. Because I'm a big believer that sometimes you need to fail to really win. Because if you haven't had that disappointment, you may never have the hunger of what to put in what is required. Because the first thing first that I think everybody needs to understand, artists, any creative person, especially musicians, and then maybe actors, I think these are the two hardest fields to be in because it's very, very lonely. It's the artist, right? And the artist is left alone with their thoughts. They could spend 10 years chasing a hit record and you don't understand what's going on, but that's what's going on. They're trying to get back to that place where they've been, but hey, music is from God, it's not given. So you can make 1,000 records, but there's no guarantee that the audience is ready to accept it in the same way that they accepted you originally. So it's a delicate balance, but the most important thing is to have good people around you in your team who have knowledge, who can advise you on the best deals to do. But believe me, to really go global and to really even local, you need to do deals. So you need to do deals in Surulere, you need to do a deal in Enugu, you need to do a deal in New York. It's all the same. There's no freebies, there's no free access. So people, I mean, this kind of thing I love to see is what Ashake just did last weekend with the Red Bull Symphony, because that just shows the musicality of the man in a completely different environment from what you've been used to seeing him. And what it's just done is just expanded his touring possibilities massively. So as you're sitting there and you're looking at that, you see that anything is possible because how he has been built is somebody that should be a Harvard case study because the man is singing in Yoruba, he's singing Fuji, and he's singing trance music, but meanwhile, the whole world is tuning in. Don't ask me to explain it. I don't know why, but it's working. So we just see these things, but there's a lesson in it, which is that when you're saying something or doing something that's compulsive that connects to people, they will understand what you're doing, even if they don't understand the words. And I think Ashake is a prime example of that. And it's just the kind of thing that we love to see because he's an authentic talent. And that's the other word. Stop trying to be somebody that's already out. We don't need another Wizkid. We have him already. So be the first version of you, and hopefully your own story, your own content, your own narrative will be important enough and people will care enough to do the deals and engage it.
So many gems. So many gems you've shared. But yes, I think the summary is music is that soft power. It's what we said at the start. It's that catalyst. It's good to see. It's good to see all of the things that are happening. And a lot of gems for the artists in the house, and I guess labels as well, and managers and talent managers, and how to work with them better. And so I come back to Bizo. So a lot is happening and it's moving fast in the music scene. There's a lot of music tech innovation as well. And I know in the report you also even highlighted house music, DJ rise. So again, is there anything that excites you about music going forward as we build the next $1 billion sound?
Well, yeah, definitely. There's a lot of things exciting. I mean, to see in the future. There's a lot of things that we're looking at, like that it's exciting. The new sounds coming. There's a lot of new sounds coming that people are experimenting with. A lot of people are doing a lot of sampling and sampling old music. I mean, we saw that this year with Thames doing like Shei Shodimu's Lomi Jeje, bringing it back up. I mean, that also got Shei Shodimu some bookings. So a lot of people are experimenting more. And I'll say for us, it's like a plug. We're also like beginning to look into a lot of all these things and looking into a lot of all this data to actually see things that work because we've realized now, okay, for example, it's not really not just before, it was really everybody used to think it was about getting playlisted. Now we're seeing different things where sometimes it's not just about playlists. There's a new artist in town. His name is Marvel. How did he grow? He built community. His community took him to where he is right now. His community blew him up, and everybody started listening. All of a sudden, everyone's on him. He's done a record with Wizkid. He's done a record with Davido. I mean, in just 1 year, in less than 1 year, he already has record with two of the three big guys. He's done a record with Ira Star. I mean, I think he's only Burna Boy, Rema, Olamide, and Tiwa Savage. He hasn't really done any records with. So it's like, for me, it's like these are the things that we're seeing, and everyone's really focused on things going on now. Everyone's looking at the trends. I mean, everybody, he did it. He has a record with CK now. He's giving CK his first number one in a long time. CK hasn't had a number one record in a minute till now. He's done a record with Marvel and he's back at the top. So for me, it's really just about us looking at what's the next thing, what are the next steps, what do we focus on? Like I said earlier when Obi was talking, community is the next future, is the next thing, because I don't think a lot of people are going to be going into the big venues anymore next year. It's in who are the people who can sell out small 200, 300 capacity venues across so many states. Like, I mean, there's an artist from the UK, Odile. He just recently did a tour in the US, sold out every city, and it was small venues. Nobody's going straight to doing Madison Square and all these things anymore, because it's like those things don't really track. It's like it doesn't make sense where your record is coming out. You're not, your records are not doing crazy numbers, and but yeah, they're trying to do Madison Square Garden, and I think it's a bad habit that we got from the top guys like the Wiz, the Burners, the David, going straight to doing the big venues. They didn't want to. I mean, when it was at a point where Afrobeat was on the rise, so they went straight to the big venues. They didn't bother to do the little venues, which is something that we need to correct with the new generation and make them, start small. Like, look at someone like a Thames. She didn't go straight to doing big venues. She started at 500 cap, moved to 1,000 cap, moved to 3,000 cap, and those are the things that we need to start doing, because those are the only way we can really, really track and build a fan base, you know, outside of Nigeria. In Nigeria, definitely everybody's Nigerian. Everybody's going to want to listen to your music. But how do you build outside of Nigeria? How do you scale? You know, how are we able to use this to track? And one thing I'm excited about is also like the fact that with the streaming platforms now, you're really able to like see where your actual fans are. So you know that, look, from Paris, and I get minimum of 5,000 streams a month from Paris. I can easily know that I can sell out a 750 capacity venue in Paris. In London, I can do, maybe London, I'm seeing 3,000 streams. Maybe London, I'll go for a 250 capacity. It's like those things, those data is really very, very important. And like Obi said as well, too, merchandising is something big that a lot of artists are looking into. Like, I mean, they said Michael Jackson's estate has made so much money, and it's not really about the music because they haven't released any new music. It's strictly just the merchandising that they've been selling. A lot of the Michael Jackson merchandise, a lot of the vinyls, things like that that people are buying. Just, I mean, the movie is coming out next year. Everyone's been tweeting they're excited and looking forward to this. These are the things that we need to really start looking into, in Nigeria, and like people need to focus on that merchandising, because that's real big money. That's gold. That's diamond that people are not paying attention to, that could be generating revenue for them. So yeah, man, those are the things that I feel like we can definitely use to, and those are the things that we are looking at as well for the next few years generation. That those are things that are also determining the type of artists we want to work with as well. Artists who are building community, artists who are already having ideas of, like, owning small to scale. You
Thank
know?
you for sharing that, Buzu. I hear you say going forward, we need a lot of collaboration. We need a lot of unique sound, your authentic sound. Um, we need a lot of expansion in terms of revenue um, for the artist as well, and just being realistic about where you are. So it makes me curious around how did this Davido tour in Nigeria go? Right, so if you could just give us this small scoop. Can you still hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay. Can you give us
So
just
yeah,
yeah, how did that go? It was good to see Badon, Uyo to
yes.
Enugu.
So I mean, it went really, really well. I'm not gonna lie. I think I'll say the best was Enugu, and the reason being was that they're not used. The guys in Enugu are used to mostly seeing like the guys from there doing shows, but I mean, it was a good thing for them to see the video. Like, the love was crazy, the turnout was wild. I mean, ticket sales. the ticket sales weren't that bad. Like it wasn't. It did beyond what we expected. We didn't think it would do that much, but it did beyond what we expected. But for me, it was more than the ticket sales. It was really just about being able to see that people are willing to come out, and then we already know that for a lot of people, it's the price challenge. We sold VIPs, definitely. We sold VIPs in all the shows. The VIPs sold well, but for the regular, we've been able to figure out, okay, this is a good price point. And a lot of the regular people, we've realized that a lot of them are people who enjoy music, but they're not willing to spend that much for music, you know. So it's really a thing of knowing that maybe the focus should be on this thing, should be making money from the VIPs and sponsors. And then for the regular, just keeping it at a decent price, just so we know at least it's not just riffraffs coming to the show. At least for you to be able to pay to come into a show, it definitely means like you value it a lot. And even we sold merchandise. Like we didn't believe we were going to sell merchandise that much. I mean, we didn't sell as much as we thought we would, but we sold merchandise. So this just shows that people are hungry for these things. People are hungry for things that they see their idols doing internationally. But it's really more about us finding that structure to grow it well. And trust me, I'm going to tell you, it wasn't very easy for us to put this tour together. Like getting like having to take the stage, using the same stage in all 5 cities, in all 4 cities that we did it. It wasn't easy traveling from one city because the stage had to travel by road to these places to get there before we got there, you know, accommodation wise, traveling wise, But I mean, it was a huge success, and I feel like this has definitely sparked up conversations. It's opened more conversations for people to talk. We've shown people that it's possible. And I mean, also, besides us, shout out to Lona and the guys from KVLT, those young boys, they did a tour and they did more than us, actually. I think they did 25 cities across Nigeria. And it definitely wasn't easy. It was smaller venues, but they partnered with universities. But I think that was a very, very good thing. And for me, this is something where I feel like we should look into more and hoping more and more people are touring across Nigeria. Like you said, Obi, it would be good to see Nigerian artists doing 50 dates and not necessarily just dropping an album and trying to rush to London or America or rush to African countries. Let's first start with touring at home, then we expand to moving to different places. I think we lost
Uh,
Finn, but
yeah, I think we
yeah.
lost Fame, but I mean, just to comment on what you were saying, I think first of all, I think shout out to Davido, the
I
plug.
can't hear you, Obi.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Did I? I don't know why you're not hearing me. I'm speaking normally. I don't know. Can you hear me? Can you hear me now?
I can't hear you still. I don't know why I can't hear you.
I don't know why. Can you hear me now? And I'm hearing you. Maybe I should go out and come back in. I'm not sure. Bizzle, are you safe if I leave you here by yourself? I'm gonna go out and come back. Did you get that? You see my message?
I guess I'm the only one here, so we're going to wait for Finn and Obi to come back. I guess I'm the only. Yeah, so I can see people in the comment section saying that they can hear us, but yeah, I mean, I'm sure. I hope you guys have been engaged by our conversations, and I'll be looking forward to seeing what people think about the report that was done, and yeah.
What's that?
There's okay, hear me now?
Okay. Can you hear me?
Okay, welcome back, guys.
All right.
Yeah.
For some reason, I got thrown out. I'm not sure what
I
happened
am.
exactly.
I think people can hear us, but I can't. I can't
Okay.
hear you guys.
Yeah.
But the
No,
people
I
say
mean,
they can hear us in the comment section.
yeah, figuring, I was just
So
about to respond to something
yeah.
that Bizzle was talking about the tour and
Okay.
everything they did. And just to say, first of all, congratulations to them, Davido, the plug, the whole crew. I saw that. I mean, I saw everything that happened, and when you've been preaching something, there's nothing better than to see it happen in real life. We've been leaving too much food on the table. I would encourage all the Nigerian artists, especially the biggest ones. Let us not ignore Nigeria, right? It's not good that we have our artists doing the biggest platforms in the world, but not performing at home. This is not That's not the way it should be at all. So we actually put out a recommendation. We put out a recommendation to the Nigerian Governors Forum. This is the Nigerian Governors Forum, recommending to them that every state has talent, right? So if you have Burna Boys from River State, there's no reason why the River State government should not partner with the Burna Boy to launch an annual Burna Boy music festival. Do you understand? And I think this can happen in literally every state of Nigeria. And that's another way to add another 30, 40 properties to the music ecosystem in the country. It's a part, of course, of talking about touring Nigeria, where, like I mentioned earlier, you've got 10,000 hotels plus, you have 30 airports, you have 600 tertiary institutions, and you have 40 plus stadiums. Yes, we don't have all the arenas, but the arenas are coming as well. The Lagos arena is coming. We have a venue coming with Mefa and Abuja. We hope to build 10 in the next 3 years. Those are 4,000 capacity venues. So the truth of the matter is there is infrastructure, there is equipment, there is facility, there is capacity. I mean, 20 years ago, Kanye West, LL Cool J, all these guys were coming here on tour for Star Mega Jam. And the capacity and the technology there is still here. So for me, it's about us believing in us. It's about us taking the show to our own people and letting them have the opportunity to experience what the rest of the world is experiencing. And once that happens, then I think everybody benefits from that and everybody profits from that because the
Yeah.
opportunities in front of us are not just the touring. You heard him talk about the merchandise they sold ticketing, they did VIP, they did regular. And this is the key to the whole thing. You have to get out there, you have to get involved. You will make some mistakes, but you also win some. The guys he's talking about that did 25 dates, we need more of that, right? Because typically, anywhere in the world, you want to build yourself as an artist, you do it on the road. You do
Yeah.
it touring. Touring is the backbone of music. That's where you learn your chops. That's where you generate most of your revenue. So for us, of course, yes, we know touring in Nigeria is not easy. He told you already. The roads, security, all these issues. But guess what? Nothing is easy. There's
Yeah.
nothing that happened in the music industry that was easy. That's not enough to say we're not going to do it. And that's not enough to be so comfortable to say we're going to stay away from it. So for me, the message is let's keep going.
Yeah.
David did 5 dates this year. There's no reason why. I'm waiting for Burner, Wiz, somebody to announce a domestic Nigerian tour. David added 5 dates to his world tour, but David O can come back and do a Nigerian tour next year. There are 36 state capitals in Nigeria. There's another 10 big towns apart from the state capitals. There's at least 50 towns in this city that can pull out 50,000 people. And that is money on the table, regardless of how much they're spending. It aggregates to a lot of money, especially when you have the capacity to bring the people out. And that's what we saw in Enugu. Some of those artists in Enugu are not known outside the East, but they are massive in the East. Jerick comes to mind. I don't know how well Jerick is known in Lagos and these other places, but in the East, he's a king. And this is what touring does. So if Jerick had been able to go with David on tour around the country, not just in Enugu, imagine what that's done for him in terms of exposure. Do you understand? So those sort
Right.
of collaborations, you know, Black people and Africans tend to collaborate from intuition, whereas our European friends tend to collaborate with focus groups. But we get it done. So we're looking forward to seeing more of that and to hopefully get invited to some of the shows as well.
Right. For sure. It's be good to be invited to some of the shows. So last question, really. But I'll go with Bizu first. So as we wrap up, as you were speaking, you spoke a lot of about again the planning that went into it, the numbers. You spoke about the data that went into it. Again, just sizing, deciding. Again, you hadn't shared entirely, but again, deciding what markets you had to go or what states you decided to go into. And so it sort of leads me to this last question around data. Just coming back to the data narrative that we're still trying to push, because again, as much as music is soft power, there's the quantitative facts. So what data is sort of shaping how you move forward as a company, especially in decision making, as you decide the kind of artists to onboard, the talents to scout, the events to hold. Again, not sharing your
I think, did she get hooked on the internet?
Okay, so I'm not sure if you can hear me, but like I had to
I
be
can hear
listening
you.
to you on YouTube. I couldn't hear you from here, but I was listening on YouTube, and we are just basically and I know you're basically asking about yeah. Oh my God, these dogs. Oh, sorry, the dogs are making noise. But yeah, I know you were asking about like how we use data to really research on how the type of artists we're signing and stuff like that. And for me, to be honest, data has just really helped us to see the patterns that things are moving in, and but it's still really about our intuition. To be honest, like it's for me, I say a lot of the reasons why the international guys aren't trying to spend huge money on deals here anymore is because in the beginning, for a lot of them, it was really about data. Oh, these guys are moving crazy on TikTok. These guys are, and they started pouring in big checks. And then they realized that we've poured in so much big checks into these guys, but there's actually no proper development for these guys. So sorry, so sorry about these dogs making noise. I'm so sorry. But yeah, so there's like we've poured so much money into these guys, growing and spent so much money to these guys because we've seen how they've been blowing up everywhere online and how the numbers have been increasing on social media. They spent huge budgets signing these guys, and then they realized that look, we actually need to give these people proper artist development. So now it's a thing where everybody's working backwards, where people are looking at data, but also now making sure that we're giving this artist proper development as we're going, because we don't want to be spending the wrong amount of money, pushing these guys and then them not having proper development. So now it's like, okay, we're going to use data to research and know how to push these guys, what market to push these guys in, what ways to push these guys. They see that, okay, look, this first song blew really well by pushing so much on TikTok and Instagram and Facebook. We're going to use that for the next song, but also in between pushing for the next song, we're going to do proper development with these guys. We're going to see how we're going to be able to help them with proper stage performances.
We lost Bizzle.
Yes, I think so. So all the tech is doing its thing today. But let me come to you for the let me come to you for the last question. While we wait for Bizu to come on, it's really around what you've said. Just bringing it home. What do you think is the best way to move forward in terms of just collaboration? Whether it's the government, thinking on how best to formalize all of this data collection and just make it a bit more transparent for investors. Or it's just investors also thinking about how best to come in, what they should look out for, or creatives as well, what they should be thinking about. But that collaboration, how do we use that to sort of unlock how we move the next level of growth for the space?
I think it's a couple of things. I think first of all, everything we're doing is very targeted and very focused. So in terms of putting out reports, putting out measurable data, it's so that third parties can take a look and take assessments and make up their own minds and their own decisions, because it's not about me force feeding you. You don't force anybody to invest into anything. You just
Hmm.
give them the option and the opportunity, right? That's the first thing. Anybody who wants to invest and participate in the music industry already knows that they want to do that, right? The issue for them normally is, how do I get in? How do I get to participate? And that
Hmm.
is something that we certainly, working with people like the Nigerian Investment Promotion Commission, the Nigerian Export Promotion Council, because part of what we're looking at is how can we classify some of these assets and create a music export program, for example, and a creative export window with the central bank, which will enable more capture of flows and value capture in the economic side back into the country. So I think that there's several different conversations. There's the economist conversation, there's the banker conversation, there's the investor conversation, there's the policy side of it, there's the education side of it. But then there's the operator side, which is the actual operators in the music industry, the labels, the publishers, the agents, the managers, the lawyers, the auditors. So it's a value chain, right? It's not just the artist. So this idea that, oh, one guy is sitting on stage and that's it. No, 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 no. You see one person, there might be 100 people behind him. But it's just that we're sitting in the days of almost like the hero complex of original Hollywood, when the entire studio is built around one star. But that doesn't mean that the entire studio is the one star, or that the one star is doing it alone. And sometimes our people here seem to think that, and they need to get that out of their minds and understand that if you don't have a team behind you, you're not likely to be successful. So the first advice for anybody who's on the artist side of things, on the creative side of things, is get your team right. Once you got your team right, your team can talk to all the other people in the value chain. What you need to focus on the artist is making sure the music is right, right? So your team needs to work on the A&R, maybe bring in the right producers to help you to finesse the thing that you're putting together. But then when it comes to the business of it, doing the marketing, the strategy, the communication, that's a different skill set, right? And the important thing is for people to understand where their strengths lie and how they can play. For me, coming from a perspective of government, we're here to enable, support everybody. So we don't have any biases. We don't care. As long as you're Nigerian and you have talent, we want to see you win. And one of the things that we're coming with in 2026 is a platform called Discover Niger. So Discover Niger is focused on discovery, is focused on aggregation and trying to push out talent at scale. Because in Nigeria, as I've said a couple of times, Nigerians are releasing, just on the music side, I mean, Biz will have a better number, but it's 3 to 5 thousand songs every day of the year. This is 1.5 million new tracks every year, and there's 19 million songs on Spotify. And if you could imagine, 90% of these people pushing out this music have no budget. So with no budget, no marketing, it's very, very difficult for you to be found or seen. So discovery is the biggest barrier to anybody even being seen or heard. So if Discover Nigeria is coming out to try to address that problem, working as a distro and a discovery platform for Nigerian talent, and we hope to go live early 2026. And as we come alive, then we're working with private sector partners to really push this talent and these contents to a place where they can monetize. So that's part of how we're trying to address the Nigeria opportunity. But the Nigerian opportunity is an endless one. And from what we're seeing, I believe we're just starting. I would suggest that in 10 years' time, this sector should be 3 or 4 times its present size, 2.5 to $3 billion. And at that point in time, I think everybody in Nigeria will know and understand that this opportunity is real and they can be part of it. That's the other thing. Please don't think the music industry is closed or that you can't be part of it, because it's still open, there's still opportunity, there's still possibilities. Stay focused, stay hopeful, and stay connected. Thank you very much. I seem to be alone now on the thing. We're all having internet connection issues. Okay, you're back.
Yes, good afternoon. Thank you very much. I'm hoping that Bizzle and Fee can join us before we end the live. But then we have questions from the comment section. I do not know
Sure.
if you would like to take them, sir. Okay. All right. Thank you. So I'm just going to pick, like, there are a lot of questions, but I'll just pick some of the questions. Okay.
For
So
sure. Go ahead.
how do you internationalize? How do you internationalize the creatives, artists, support their access to foreign markets? So how do we internationalize? How do we make these artists like go to the international stage and support
Well,
their the access to the foreign market? So it's not just locally that they
well,
are like music,
fir-
music.
first of all the platforms are global platforms. Spotify, there's over 500 DSPs there in 200 countries, so they're already international. The day you put out the music, it's international on day one. But the second thing is, if you really want to make a real run at it, you need to find a budget, which means you need to find a record label or something that will support you. One of the things we are considering is how to launch a Nigerian music export office, which will mean that means we have to raise budget and create a situation where developing artists and young artists can get touring opportunities outside Nigeria. But for me, before I'm taking you on a touring opportunity outside Nigeria, you better be dominant in Nigeria. You don't just wake up and go international. What have you done in your own market? And the beautiful thing about the DSPs, which is like the Spotify's, Apple Music's, and Dondo Audio Mac, is you have data, you have heat maps. So I can see how many people are listening to you in Port Harcourt, or how many people in Bauchi, or how many people in Surulere, and that would now determine whether you have actually reached the level where you can go international. And this thing about going international, it's not, sometimes it kind of irritates me. Go national. Try to be number one in Lagos first. When you be number one in Lagos, let's have a conversation, because that's the hardest thing to do. Do you understand? A lot of people talk about going international. I said, man, they don't even know you on your street, right? Let them know you on your street where you live, and from there, let's see what's possible. So let's not skip just because you have social media and it means it's out. It doesn't mean anybody international is checking until somebody, and that's why that community is so important. Your community, who are your hardcore fans, are the people that will propel you to international. It's certainly not the government. Is that okay? Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay.
All right.
Any more
Okay, so
questions?
there's another question. Yes, there's one more question here. So music cross borders easily, but does not the IP infringement. That's an interesting study showing that Jamaica didn't profit at all from the reggae music movement, but cooperation in the US and the UK. So it's
That's not
talking about
that's
like
not
music
true though.
across border.
But that's not true. That's a big
Okay.
generalization. A lot of Jamaicans profited from the music they created, but it's a very simple thing. If you don't invest, you don't generate returns. And that word is for Nigerians. So if you're sitting there watching the guy next to you and he's recording music every day, and then somebody comes from New York and invests in him, why would that guy from New York not make the money with him? Do you understand? You didn't invest. So to make a return on the money, you need to invest. So Nigerians need to back Nigerian talent and then go on the journey with them and hopefully make money together. But the idea that nobody made money in Jamaica from reggae music is a lie. Yes, some corporates definitely exploited a few of the big guys, but when you talk about exploitation, the big guy still got a fair amount of money. Do you understand? So it's like, I don't like this sort of victim narrative. It's not real, and it's also not true, right? Yes, black music generally has been underrepresented and undervalued in
Exactly.
terms of representation worldwide, but we're in a different age, we're in a different time, and everybody can get theirs. You good?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, 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 okay. So I think we're taking questions already. So I'll let
Yeah.
Idris
All
on.
right. Thank you, Zach. Then there's one more question that is here, but I think I'll just merge two of them together. The question is, how do people? Yes, can you hear me?
Yeah,
Yes. Fee,
yeah.
we can hear you. Yes.
We haven't asked the question.
Yes, from the comment section. Just one more question that's asking how do people that are just
The connections are not helping us, man. The internet has not been great today.
So sorry to the audience. Today everything is choppy. So I think the question. I see your comments. Yes, we've started. I think the link to the report is in there. We'll drop it in. We'll drop it in the chat box again. Um, and yes, happy to do collaborations and engage with the ecosystem. I think the last question is how do artists? I'm not sure if she has asked this. How do artists and managers with no connections network in the industry? I'm not sure if that was the last one you were speaking to.
I haven't heard it yet, but the truth of the matter is they got to go out there and build those networks, right? You know, let me tell you, social media has
I
already
can't hear
created.
you.
Oh, for real? I hope they can hear me on the larger thing. I mean, I can hear you, and I'm speaking, and my mic seems to be working on this side. So I don't know whether that's also the audience is not hearing me. But can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Can you hear
Hear
me?
me?
Please thumbs up
Yes, I can.
if you
I
can.
can hear you. I can hear you.
Okay,
can hear
I can
but
hear
I
you.
can't hear anyone. Okay, so it's
And
probably
you're
from
not
my
hearing
end.
me. I don't know whether
Let me
it's
sort it out.
is it your side. I mean, I wanted to answer the question by saying that if you don't have any network or connections, it means you need to get out there and build some. It sounds a little bit hardcore, but it is what it is. And in 2025, there's so many ways to build. And one of the resources, this is just a resource, taxi.com, for anybody who's looking for advice on legal contracts, publishing, sync, all these things. That's a great website that's been up for a number of years that gives legal advice on the music industry. It's all free and you should check it out, taxi.com. But the truth of the matter is this, is that nothing is easy, nothing is given, but what you need to do is go out there and network, engage people, tell them who you are, what you're doing, how what you're trying to do, and talk to people in the industry, talk to radio stations, talk to TV channels, talk to newspapers, talk to magazines, talk to journalists, talk to on-air personalities, talk to DJs. DJs are very, very important. So it's relationship building, network building. That's the only way you can do it. There's no other way. There are no short circuits. And yes, everybody starts off knowing nobody, but you work hard at it, you'll know everybody. I have no idea if you heard anything I said, but I've said what I had to say.
Yes, I did. Yes, I did. Thank you so much. I think if there are no other questions, I don't see any. I don't see any other questions. So I will say thank you to everyone. Um, okay, thank you to everyone. Thank you, Bizo. I know you had to drop off the call for other engagements. Thank you to DG for joining us this afternoon. Your busy schedule, for engaging with us on the report. I think call to action is please download the baselines to billions report. Has really good insights, especially if you are looking to again size. I see there was a comment in the chat saying how do we think about Kenya as well. So if you're thinking about how to size the music space in Kenya, you might want to look in there. We try to again explain the methodology across the revenue streams as much as we could. Um, but yes, I'm happy to constantly engage, and I know that the agency to NCAC is happy as well to engage stakeholders across board on the reports on other subsectors in the space as we continue to move the Nigeria creative economy forward. This recording will be on our YouTube page, so feel free to share for anyone that's missed the call and you want to be able to again and wants to be able to enjoy the conversation. It was a really rich conversation, if I do say so myself. Thank you to the DJ. Thank you, Bizu. Thank you, everyone, for engaging with us this evening, this afternoon. So I wish you all the very best. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Fiend. Well done.
Bye bye.